Hi again, ignore the get up, I just got out of work, so here I am. I freaking love zombies. And on the Uber ride home today, I was trying to figure out why. Because don't get me wrong, I love zombies for reasons why you would expect I love zombies. But then for other reasons that you wouldn't think. I love it when zombies are walking around a desolate village. I love it when zombies are eating people, adults and children alike. I love it when zombies are dancing, because apparently dancing zombies is a subgenre within the zombie community. Of course, you see it in Thriller, you see it at the end of as an Easter egg in the Visage video game. You also see it in the end credits of Dead Rising 2 or one of those games. Zombies just always make me so happy, and it's not just because they have guts spilling out and blood spitting everywhere, or some variants can vomit acid. Like, that's cool, but it's all face value. But I was really trying to think about why I like zombies so much. As per my display back here, I got the heads from Walking Dead, I got a Dead Rising 2 zombie, and then I got a Priest zombie from Sideshow Collectibles. I got a notification, ignore that. Like, it's all well and good, but there's something more to it that I really enjoy about the idea of zombies. So what are zombies? So basically, they are people who have come back from the dead, and they are usually after flesh or brains, depending on the source. And usually this infection has begun either because there is a virus, or there is some sort of biblical stuff or supernatural force that's taking over either a small concentrated area or the entire globe. How does one become a zombie? Usually, in the common lexicon, it's because you're bitten, you're infected, and then you die, and then you rise back up as one. It varies from source to source. It's always going to be a little bit different, but for me, that's aside from the point. At the end of the day, they're zombies, and that's where I start to care. Again, they're fun to just watch and do their zombie thing, but there's something, here I go, a little philosophical about it, too. When I see zombies, I'm not scared at all. Like, I've got a very high tolerance for horror and the macabre and stuff like that. We'll get more into that in the future as well. So zombies don't frighten me, rather they actually bring me to a state of calm, which is really weird to say. Like, whenever I see zombies, I'm like, holy shit, there's a dead person who used to be my uncle or something. I'm like, this is nice. Here we are. I'm glad we're here. And that's, like, not the usual response, right? And I was trying to piece together, again, on the ride back here, like, why it is that I like zombies so much. And, again, why do I get that feeling of calm when I'm watching something like Walking Dead, 28 Days Later, or playing video games even, like No More Room in Hell, as you've seen on my gaming channel. I'm also a big Dead Rising fan, stuff like that. I guess when you play a game, watch a movie, watch a show that takes place in such dire circumstances, the reason why it's so effective is because it forces you to reflect on our own world as it is. Yeah, zombies are fiction, as far as we know. Who knows what they're keeping at Area 51. But there have been moments in time where we've come close to that. I mean, there are many different contexts as to why zombies exist. Like, if you go to, like, George A. Romero, Night of the Living Dead, of course, it was a more racial subtext, almost meant to sort of show the divide between the common man and the alienating other man, if you would put it that way. So it can take that subtext, but it can also go towards real-world events, like, of course, COVID just happened, and then you have a whole bunch of people dropping like flies all over the planet, and then there are, like, a few people left. But there's something interesting that happened during COVID where we were experiencing a sudden, massive volume of people dropping dead, and as a result of that, a lot of people were starting to come together, and it was a call to action for them. You see people from, like, different sides, different oppositions, different countries, different lifestyles, whether they're in school, at work, or they're a part of a religious foundation, or they're part of a food drive, whatever it is, whatever have you. Of course, you got first responders as well. And everybody was coming together because everyone was struggling with the same problem. When you look at zombies, again, whether you're looking at it through watching it or you're playing it, and you're in that environment, it's kind of the same thing. Circling back, I think the reason why zombies make me so calm is because they give you something of a resolution. Of course, whether you consider yourself very spiritual, or you're very philosophical, or existential, or whatever have you, you're always going to circle to this particular question, and that is, what happens after we die? And that's the scariest question of all. Fight me on that, I'll die on this hill. Then there's an ethical question within the zombie zeitgeist, where if you come back as one of the dead, are you still the same person? In Dead Rising 2, a video game, for those of you who don't know, I mentioned it a few times already, there's... I expect this would exist in real life too. There's a group of zombie rights activists who believe that zombies shouldn't be killed again because the people who used to inhabit the bodies are believed to still be in there. So you can't kill zombies. And as a result of that, more people die. But the point I'm trying to make here is it's not necessarily what you believe about the afterlife. It's not necessarily under what circumstances do zombies exist, whether they are the same person buried deep in there, or they're just mindless drones walking around, which is my running theory, again, depending on what universe you're talking about. But again, it's less about that ambiguity and more about the certainty, in that when you're in one of these zombie worlds, you know for a fact zombies exist. That's what happens to you when you're dead. And as tragic and nihilistic of a reality as that would be, at least you have an answer. You know. You have one of the most ancient human questions answered, taken off the board. You know what's going to happen, and then you can deal with it however you want to. Either choose to die right there, or make the best of your life, protecting people the best you can, or you set certain life goals, like you want to live as long as you can, or you want to create like a fallout shelter, or whatever. But at least if there's a zombie apocalypse, you know a truth, a big truth. From there on out, you make those concrete decisions. And that's where that sensation of calm comes from for me. Because now, of all the questions I have, one of the biggest ones, and I think the scariest question that I have for myself, is gone in this world. So if I'm playing a video game, or I'm watching TV, or whatever, I'm in this world where I know something for sure. And that's helpful sometimes. Especially in philosophy, where the whole thing is all about questions, and you very rarely find anything concrete. If you find something concrete in philosophy, then you didn't find philosophy, you found religion, right? But when there's zombies running around, or walking around, I guess, again, depending on what medium you're looking at, it's no longer a matter of philosophy, religion, spirituality, it's ontology. They're here. Therefore, you know. And then once again, going back to that state of calm, it's almost as if I prefer to know a really horrible and dire truth as opposed to be trifling with an unanswerable question. There's that release in knowing something for sure, which may be preferable than just being left in the dark. It's kind of like The Matrix, which I just watched for the first time recently. Like, are you willing to learn the absolute truth at the risk of the truth being worse than the illusion you're already living in? Now, you can also bring in Plato's Myth of the Cave if you don't know about the cave. It could be told in 5 seconds or it could be told in 5 hours, but it effectively goes something like this. Basically, you have a few people, or maybe just one person, who's chained inside of a cave, and they're watching a whole bunch of shadow puppets dancing along the cavern walls, right? And then one day they decide, wait a minute, like, this is a good show and all, but what's going on outside? Is there an outside? Would outside be a thing? What is outside? So they enchain themselves, they go up, and then they find the puppeteers and everything, and they realize, wow, this whole thing was just a show. This wasn't reality at all. And then they keep on venturing out. Then they go outside and they see the sun, and the sun is extremely painful because they've been underground their whole lives, and they've never seen it before. But then slowly their eyes adjust, they get used to it, and they might not love the sun, but they're able to accept it. I guess for me, if there was a zombie apocalypse or something, sorry if my camera's lagging a little bit, I would find solace in the acceptance. Now, am I saying that I'd advocate for a sudden zombie outbreak? Would I advocate for something as terrible as COVID happening? Of course not. No one wants that to happen. Well, there are a few arsonists and anarchists out there who would enjoy that dearly. Am I saying that I wouldn't enjoy surviving the crap out of it and learning how I can build my life within those rigid circumstances? Probably, yeah. I guess I'm trying to say that as you go through life, you discover certain truths about the world. Whether it's a zombie apocalypse or not. And the ultimate challenge that comes with that is, are you just going to succumb to the truth, or are you going to adapt to it? And I think when you learn to adapt to the truth of an ancient, years-old question, that gives way to a great deal of self-actualization. You learn so much of yourself through that process. If we were in a world where zombies were walking around, and we knew that for certain, you'd be one of two people, right? you'd either give up, you drop dead right there, like a lot of people have said on certain dating profiles I've looked at. If there's a zombie outbreak, they'll just die instantaneously. Or you're going to fight. You're going to do what you can to survive it. And that's what we do as human beings. When something comes along, whether it be COVID, whether it be zombies, whether it be politics being scary, whether it be a war, whether it be genocide, we put our heads together and we gather our tools and we find our way to overcome. But then I guess the thing about the zombies is kind of represents the middle ground between what we know now and what we could be knowing in the future. Zombies are the B between A and C. I'm trying to say that I'm fascinated with the B point. I'm fascinated with when we learn the truth, the dread of the truth. Not just how we solve it or what we're like before it, but when we're actually in that storm as it's happening. Like, again, I studied a great deal of philosophy in college. It was kind of sort of my major. I do have a plaque, which I could show off sometime. I studied the German philosophers a lot, and they existed before World War II. So these were actually good guys before, Hitler, took everything they believed in and totally ruined it. But they spoke a great deal, the pessimists and the nihilists, about being in the eye of the storm. I believe that was Schopenhauer. And effectively, it's the idea that you're surrounded by a lot of danger, a lot of chaos, but you're safe being in the eye of the storm itself, where the storm doesn't actually touch you, but you can watch the storm take place from a safe distance. And it's kind of like when we're watching movies or watching the news or some chaotic thing that's going on that's not actually touching us or affecting us. We can watch it, we can enjoy it, we can hate it, whatever you want, but from a distance in which we're actually safe and we'll be okay. And I guess that's kind of what the core philosophy is. It's the fact that you're not obligated to totally immerse yourself into a certain perspective or a certain religion or spiritual standpoint or whatever have you. You're able to stand at the sidelines, look around, and go, okay, so that's what that means. That's what that means to that person or that group of people. I don't really like that thing, though. Although, if it were tweaked, I might enjoy that a little bit more. But then again, that's verging more on to point C. It's point B, the zombie apocalypse, that ancient truth that has suddenly been realized. That's where that sense of calm comes for me. The eye of the storm. I mentioned that again. So I guess I'm having to attempt to summarize, because I don't plan these videos at all. I just kind of go and see where I end up. And then I want to kind of tie together any of the points that are hopefully remotely tangible by the end of the video, right? Effectively, I love zombies not just because of the gore factor, for the fun factor, for the blood, the guts, whatever. I do enjoy that. It's fun. It's my bread and butter, kind of. But there's something more to it, and it's, again, the peace, the peaceful nature of a zombie apocalypse. And I'm thinking more in the headspace of the really slow, meandering, shambling zombies, not the running ones that you get in 28 days later, right? Zombies represent an old question being answered to us, and then the fascinating thing is how we deal with that truth. And then one of the questions that we'd have for ourselves is, do we find ourselves in a better headspace with the question or with the answer? For me, I prefer, at least in the case of zombies, the answer. I'd rather know what happens after we die, whether it be we become zombies, or we go to heaven or hell, or it's lights out, so that way I can use what I know now, the facts that I'm still here, at least I'm pretty sure, based on the truths I know will occur in the future, I can orchestrate and craft the life that I want now. So ambiguity is good because it allows us to ask questions. That's very important. But occasionally, it's a nice little treat to get some truth. So that way you could decide, you can have a better idea of in what direction you should be angling yourself towards. You don't want to go out there with no sense of truth at all, because then you'll just be roaming around aimlessly. And we don't want that either. It's weird. You need a mixture of truth and you need a mixture of questions. You need a little bit of both of that. If you have too much truth, then you'll probably just be totally nihilistic. You won't care. You won't plan on doing anything important with your life. If you have too much ambiguity, you'll be too afraid to confront life whatsoever. So you need a little bit of a middle ground. You need truth. You need certain understandings to ground you and give you a concrete idea of what you should be doing next. But you need a little bit of ambiguity too, because too much truth is a good thing and it can get you killed. But again, to circle back around and tie this up, the reason why the truth of zombies is so fascinating to me is because of how we handle ourselves within that moment. We know something for a fact, and then we have several options as to how we should deal with it, if we want to deal with it at all. Some people just give up right there. But for me, I'd be optimistic. I'd want to persist. I don't want to keep going. And, hell, I'd probably have fun in a zombie apocalypse. Would you? Let me know. I'm curious.